When most men think about prostate problems, they think about the symptoms they have heard about most frequently. Going to the bathroom more often, waking up at night to urinate, a weak stream, difficulty starting. These are the symptoms that appear on questionnaires, that drive men to finally make a urology appointment, and that dominate the public conversation about prostate health. But there is one sign of an enlarging prostate that precedes virtually all of these classic symptoms by months or years, that is present in the majority of men with BPH long before their stream weakens or their nighttime trips begin, and that is consistently ignored, misattributed, and dismissed both by patients and by physicians. And because it is ignored, the window for the simplest, least invasive management approaches closes, and men arrive at urology appointments with symptoms that have already progressed well beyond the early intervention stage. I am Dr. James Whitaker, board-certified urologist, and the most ignored early sign of an enlarging prostate is nocturia, specifically, the transition from 0 nighttime voids to 1. Let me explain why this specific change is so clinically significant, why it is so consistently dismissed as trivial, and why catching it at the 1 void stage changes the entire trajectory of prostate health management. The transition from sleeping through the night without voiding to waking up once per night is not, in the cultural imagination of aging, a medical event. It is the kind of change that men mention to their wives, who tell them that is just what happens when you get older, and that is the end of the conversation. It is the kind of change that men mention at a physical, if they mention it at all, and that their physician notes on the chart without initiating further evaluation. 1 nighttime void, in the standard narrative of aging, is normal, expected, unremarkable. But from a urological perspective, the transition from 0 to 1 nighttime void is not a normal aging event. It is a measurable, clinically significant change in lower urinary tract function that indicates either the early stages of BPH-related bladder changes or the early stages of nocturnal polyuria, or the beginning of overactive bladder sensitization, or a combination of all three. And the reason it matters to catch it at this stage is the same reason it matters to catch any progressive condition at its earliest manifestation. The interventions required at the 1 void stage are dramatically simpler, less invasive, and more completely effective than the interventions required at the 3 void or 4 void stage. Behavioral modification, dietary adjustment, targeted supplementation, and close monitoring are appropriate at the 1 void stage. By the time a man is voiding 3 or 4 times per night, the bladder wall has typically undergone significant hypertrophic changes. The detrusor compliance has decreased substantially, and pharmaceutical or procedural intervention is usually required. The second most ignored early sign of an enlarging prostate, which is less well known than even nocturia, is hesitancy, a prolonged delay between making the decision to urinate and the actual initiation of urine flow. In younger men with normal prostate size and normal detrusor function, the transition from the decision to void to the beginning of flow takes 2 to 5 seconds. As the prostate enlarges and narrows the urethral lumen, the bladder must build up higher intravesical pressure before flow can begin. This pressure buildup takes time, and it manifests as standing at the urinal for 10, 15, 20 seconds before the flow starts. Most men who experience this assume it is normal. They have simply never thought about how long it takes to start urinating and have no reference point for what is abnormal. Hesitancy of more than 10 seconds, measured from the moment of standing at the urinal and relaxing the external sphincter to the moment of flow initiation, is a clinically relevant indicator of outflow obstruction and warrants urological evaluation. The third ignored early sign is terminal dribbling, the involuntary passage of urine drops after the main urine stream has ended. I described the mechanism of this in the bladder emptying video. It is caused by urine pooling in the bulbar urethra after the detrusor contraction finishes. It is so common in men over 60 that many men consider it a universal feature of being an older male, mentioning it only in passing, if at all. But terminal dribbling indicates incomplete urethral stripping at the end of voiding, a sign that the coordinated pressure wave that should express all remaining urethral urine is absent or incomplete, which is characteristic of both BPH-related obstruction and early detrusor underactivity. A comprehensive review published in the Journal of Urology in 2018 examined the temporal sequence of lower urinary tract symptom development in men with BPH, using data from over 3,000 men followed longitudinally for 10 years. The analysis found that nocturia, Specifically, the transition from 0 to 1 nighttime void was the single most common first symptom of developing BPH, preceding other symptoms in over 60% of men by a median of 4 years. Terminal dribbling and hesitancy were the second and third most common initial symptoms. Frequency, urgency, and stream weakness, the symptoms that typically bring men to a urologist, appeared later in the symptom sequence, after the earlier warning signs had been present and ignored for years. The clinical implication is straightforward. If you have recently started waking up once per night to urinate when you previously slept through the night, or if you have started noticing hesitancy at the start of urination or terminal dribbling after voiding, these are not trivial background noise of aging. They are the prostate's early communication that changes are occurring, and that attention, beginning with a PSA test, a prostate volume assessment by ultrasound, and a baseline uroflowmetry, is warranted now, not in 3 years when the symptoms have progressed to a point where simple interventions are no longer adequate. Do not wait for a dramatically weak stream or severe nocturia to make a urology appointment. The best time to see a urologist about your prostate is when you first notice the subtle, easy-to-ignore early signs. Share this video with every man you know who has recently started getting up at night. Like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.